Oh, good evening, everyone. GrandmaSherry here, and I'm going to make a pot of hamburger soup. Hamburger macaroni soup, actually. And this is something that I grew up on, and I made so much of this. Now, everybody makes it different, and there's all kinds of names for it. Some people call it hangover soup, and I've heard that. But what I have here is about 1 pound of lean ground beef. My hands are clean. I just washed them. And I'm going to cook this the way my grandmother used to cook it. And I've told you before that my grandmother cooked on fire. Outside, she cooked over the fire in the summertime, right from spring till fall. She cooked everything outside on the fire. And of course, in the winter, she used we had a small stove in the house, and that's what we used for heating and cooking. But when she cooked outside is when I watched her more, because in the house it was a small house. It was crowded, and she was always afraid of us children hurting ourselves on the stove. And yet outside on the fire, she was never afraid of it. It was just part of our life. So she would start with a pot of boiling water. She'd put it on the flames and let it just boil. Now this is just coming to a nice boil. And of course she didn't have ground beef. She had deer meat. Tachja tado is what we called it. Deer meat. Tachja tado. And she would take the meat and cut it up quite small, and she would just drop it into the water. So I'm just going to do it the way she would do it. As the water was boiling, it just started to boil, and she dropped it into the water. There's no frying or anything like that. And you just break it up in there and let it cook. Let it boil. I have this frozen, so this is a little bit frozen, but I'll break it up. Okay, hold on 1 minute. You just watch this meat for me for a minute. Okay, there it is. Now, in there, I'm going to put some celery. And by the way, I got the most wonderful tip on here. I was cooking something and I talked about how I bought celery on sale, a big bunch. And they said, wrap it in foil. And I did, and guess what? It's wonderful. It looks fresh as anything. So I've got 2 pieces of celery that I'm going to cut up, and 2 carrots, and 1 potato, and 1 onion. So I'll cut this up and I'll be right back. Okay, it didn't take me long. I've got everything chopped up here. So I've got my onions and my celery and my carrots, and I'll put them in. The water's still boiling. I turned it off just for a few minutes just while I chopped this up, but now it's back on. This is how my grandmother made soup. Over an open fire, and everything went in and boiled it until it was cooked. There was none of this simmering and frying things and stuff, she just, and it was always delicious. Look at that. It already looks delicious. So I'm going to, and seasoning. Now, growing up, we add salt, but not all the time. Sometimes we ran out of salt. And it didn't matter, the soup was still delicious. I don't know how my grandmother got such wonderful flavors out of just boiling all this. But when she had salt, she put salt. And not a lot. Like, I'm putting about a teaspoon. I'm probably putting way more than what my grandmother would put in. She was just a believer in everything being natural. And then I'll put some pepper, which is another thing, we didn't always have pepper. And it was treated very special, our spices, our salt and pepper. That's all we had. There was nothing else. My grandmother always had a garden, and she was a wonderful gardener. And life was not easy when I think about it, because now I've raised my children, and when I think about my grandmother, she had a cellar, and that's where everything was. And when she wanted potatoes weren't clean. Like, we buy them at the grocery store, they're clean already. Well, we do wash them off, but my grandmother, there was mud on her potatoes. And we didn't have a well, and so the water was precious. And she would clean the potatoes so gently and carefully with very little water. And the carrots and all that. A lot of the time she just washed the carrots really good. She didn't peel them the way nowadays we peel them with a peeler. I do, and I sometimes don't, especially if they're fresh out of the garden. So there it is. It's boiling, and it won't take long, and the potatoes and carrots will be tender, and I'll come back. I'll time it. Let me see. I'll time it, and when I come back, I'll tell you how long it took, because I want you to know how fast you can make a soup. And of course, when my grandmother made a pot of soup, it was a big pot of soup, because she had a lot of people to feed, and children to feed. And when I was raising my children, I had 4 children, 1 daughter and 3 boys. I wouldn't make a little pot of soup like this. I'd make a big pot like this. But this I made for myself because I'm going to have some tonight. And then tomorrow and the next day I'm going to be out at the Wings of Hope during the day. So when I come home, I'll have soup. So let me time this, and I'll come back when it's cooked. Well, this is how my grandmother would cook it, and we'd have it with fry bread. And it's been boiling for 10 minutes. The potatoes are cooked, and the carrots are tender. It's all cooked. But now I'm going to bring it in the way we've added to it over the years. And the first thing that we did is we add macaroni. So I'm going to put about, well, I don't know. I'll start with 1 cup. Oh, I'm dropping macaroni all over the place. I'll start with 1 cup. Well, I might not put a whole cup in, maybe just half a cup. Because you don't want it too thick. Because as soon as this macaroni is cooked, our soup will be ready. Let me see. Yeah, I think that's enough macaroni in there. So I put a little bit more than half a cup. Look at that. Let's throw another little handful in there. And then the other thing that we always did, Mom always would do it, she'd put in a can of vegetable soup. I looked in my cupboard and no vegetable soup. But not to fear, because I have tomato soup. And if you don't have vegetable soup, put tomato soup in. So there. Put that in. You want to make sure you get all your soup out. And what I'll do is I'll put a little bit of the water in there and the soup mixings. And I'll twirl it around in there. And look at that. It brings more out. Perfect. My niece is going to be off for the next couple of days, and so I'm going to be giving her some soup too. Got some tomato soup. Okay, so there it is. You just would not believe how good it smells in this house. Look at that, not even 20 minutes, and I've got a great big pot of hamburger soup, macaroni soup, and it will be cooked up here pretty soon, and when it's cooked, I'll come back and I'll taste it for you. Delicious. It is absolutely delicious. It's still bubbling away here, but it's all cooked. I've turned it off, and now I'm going to enjoy my nice cup of soup.